council here this evening, along with most of our staff. And we would like to start our evening by having a Pledge of Allegiance by Alex Carter, after which Council Member Diana Anderson will give our opening remarks. Alex.
Our dear Father in heaven, we are very grateful for the opportunity that we have to come together as staff, council, and citizens in Pleasant Grove. We're grateful for the week that has just concluded, our Strawberry Days celebration. We're grateful for all the time and effort that volunteers and staff and citizens put in to pull off this wonderful celebration. We are grateful for the town that we live in. We are grateful for our friends and neighbors. We ask this night that as we look at these agenda items that we will be able to discuss and make some decisions that will be best for Pleasant Grove in the long run. We're grateful for the chance to serve, and we say this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Like a motion to approve of tonight's meeting agenda, and I don't believe we have any changes.
No changes.
Mayor, I make a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
I'll second it.
We have a motion, we have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. I will now move on to our open session. We would like to now open it up to our public to come forward and address the council on any items they have. And if you do that at this time, we would like to hear from you. As there's no rush for the podium, we will now close our open session and move on to item 6 and ask for a motion on our consent items A, B, C, and D.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve tonight's consent items.
And I'll second.
We have a motion, we have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. We have no board, commission, committee appointments this evening, and we have now item number 8, and we'll turn the time over for our presentation to Kim. Come forward.
So I got told by Kyler today that, wow, it's already time for you again. Check it out. I think I did it.
Yep, that's good.
Okay. So anyway, he was like, wow, it's already been 6 months. Well, it's been actually, I think 7. I think it was November or December. I don't know. Anyway, you guys get stuck with me twice a year grant requirements. So the first thing I like to do when I come is just present on the statistics that we have that work in my office anyway. We have a lot more statistics, regarding theft and different things like that. But the ones that I specifically work with are the ones that I keep track of, and those are the ones I'm going to share with you today. So we've had 87 DCFS case reports in 6 months. So this is all from January 1st to now, to today. We've had between family problems, protective order violations, domestic violence, custody interference, all 4 of those kind of categorized in the same thing. We've had 188. 56 of those have resulted in a domestic violence, which was probably an arrestable offense. We've had 36 sexual assaults so far. The numbers just keep rising on that, so the detectives have been really busy. We've had 11 death investigations. some of which you probably all know. All of them are really sad, but we've had some suicides and different things that have really affected our community. They were tough calls. So when we look at like all of these things together, that's not everything that our detectives in our department works on, right? We have theft, we have burglary, we have all kinds of different cases. I was in the detective meeting this morning and overheard, them asking, how many cases do you have right now? How many cases do you have right now? And I heard one detective say he had 56 cases. That's a lot of cases for one person. So, and I know they work fast and furious and giving the public the very best to their ability as far as getting things done and making sure they're done correctly. And I'm really proud of them. I'm proud to work with them. So what I wanted to talk to a little bit today, I was a little surprised during we've had our different little tours going on and stuff, and I was a little bit surprised to be asked so many times what I actually do. So I'm really briefly going to tell, if anyone's watching, I'm the victim advocate. I go out on any kind of death that is not an assisted death, which would be, or an attended death, which would be something that would be like a medical, warranted death or something like that. But I go out on all the unassisted deaths that just happen in our city, at least most of them. I also work with all victims of crime. That can include working with DCFS, Adult Protective Services, rape, violent offenders, all sexual assaults, domestic violence, child perpetrators, things like that. So I'm kind of the mediator and the middle person. I continue to work with the victims, go to protective order hearings. I went to one today. We were successful. So I help all of the victims write protective orders and do all of those different things. And then I help also follow up. Sometimes the follow-up is for years. So, and then I give them referrals to different places like the Center for Women and Children and the Family Justice Center, the Children's Justice Center, places like that. Places they can get food. I even have referred to Tabitha's Way several times. So that's kind of what I do, is I provide them with resources, housing resources, places like that. So that's what I do if anyone's watching and they're curious. What I came to talk really quickly about today is we were on what's called a VAWA fund, a VAWA grant, and it's funding that was provided for our advocate program. That is a Violence Against Women's Act. Well, they've decided to not have advocacy as much in the Violence Against Women Act, so now they've gone with they asked me if I could transition and go with a VOCA funding. This comes through the Utah Office for Victims of Crime. VOCA is the Victims of Crime Act, so this allows my capacity to be used in a bigger service, I guess. Like, I'm not just having to do violence against women, I can help with all victims of crime, so elderly abuse, just every kind of crime. If someone calls my office, I'm able to help them, hopefully, even if it's referring them to a police officer, safety plan with them, whatever it is. So I've been asked before, what does the Office for Victims of Crime, how do they get funding? And that's a really, really good question, because people are like, oh, it's money and it's all going to be taxed and everything. So what happened is the Victims of Crime Act that we're under, which is our grant, it started in 1984. It's financed by fines and penalties paid by convicted federal offenders, not from tax dollars, which is really amazing because it funds a lot. And it includes deposits from federal criminal fines, forfeited bail bonds, penalties, and special assessments collected by the U.S. Attorney's offices, federal courts, and the Federal Bureau of Prisons. Federal revenues deposited into the fund also come from gifts, donations, and bequests by private parties, as provided by an amendment to VOCA through the U.S. Patriot Act in 2001. So that went into effect in 2002, so they were able to get funding in different ways with donations. There are hundreds and thousands of dollars that are deposited in the fund this way. There is about $18 billion nationally for funding. In 2018, more than $3.4 billion from the fund was awarded to thousands of local victim assistance programs. across the country to help compensate victims in every state for crime-related losses. Now, one of the ways that this can be done is not just through, salaries or whatever, but there is a piece of paper here that I can have any victim of crime sign up and ask for compensation. It is by approval only, but this has helped some of the victims that have come through our department get counseling, therapy, change the locks on their doors. If there's a death resulting in a crime, there are other avenues that they can help with. Part of it, as you know, with domestic violence and sexual assault, definitely, there is that factor of the mental health. And so this is a great way that after their insurance caps what they can pay for, that the Utah Office for Victims of Crime will look at this and then pay for things after that. So it's been very helpful for some of the victims that we have. And it's just the money for the VOCA grant is appropriated to the Victims Assistance Program. The money can't go anywhere else. It has to stay in a VOCA funding. I have to keep track of how many hours I work VOCA funded and how many hours I work city funded. Majority of my hours this year I have written to be VOCA funded. We have gone from, I just got the approval letter last week that they're going to fund us. We were getting about $23,000 a year, and now we're going to get over $60,000 a year. So we've got about $130,000 over 2 years that we're receiving. So they do have line items that I have to fill out, so it has to be appropriated out to that exact line item. So that'll pay for travel and training. That won't come out of the city's budget. That will pay for a lot of things to help our program grow and become better, which is much needed in our to help our detectives. When we have the advocate power, we can call and help them follow up with DCFS. We can help follow up with any kind of crimes that are happening that they're just bombarded with, like 55 cases per detective. That's a lot. And so even a few weeks ago, we had a citizen come in that was concerned about her case. It had been reported a week. She wanted to speak to another officer who had already gone to detectives. I was able to go out and speak with her, and she said, I don't need the officer now. So we've had the Utah Office for Victims of Crime. They do audit every other year. They have been in my office and done a visit, and they were really amazed at the need and the documentation that we have to prove that need. So I keep very good records, and that is how we get funded in that program. So that's really my update. Any questions?
Question, council?
No, thank you.
Good work.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, if I can just add, some of you might know my neighbor that passed away about a month ago, Colby Gruhl, a 17-year-old kid that went to Pleasant Grove High School, was one evening at a church parking lot in Provo and had an accident that took his life. From the accident to when he actually passed away was about 24 hours. And our police department assisted in getting the family. So the family gets a text on Friday night at 11 o'clock, a call from the hospital saying they need to get there as soon as possible. As they were walking out the door to get in their car, we had 2 officers show up at their door. They were notified by Provo Police to assist with them, and so they got in the police cars and went lights and sirens to the hospital. And I believe you met him at the hospital? So Kim was there as well.
Sorry.
It was a tough scene. And but
Was
Kim
very,
was there
very
as well to help the family. And so the family talked to me the day after it all happened and expressed their appreciation to our police department for helping out in a really tough situation there. But
So as a victim's advocate, you would go on any like accidental death or anything that wasn't an attended death?
If
Go
my
on
detective deems that the family
Do they need that
or
service?
somebody on scene needs me, a lot of times I'm a barrier keeping the family, giving them the resources for future like expenses, funerals, things like that. I'm able to hug them and talk to them and kind of be more calming force with them. You know, they don't have to see a guy in a badge, and that reality is pretty real when you're on scene. The scene also has to be secure. It doesn't matter if the cause of death is something that they are like, well, obviously it's this. The scene has to be secure until the medical examiner gets there. My goal is to always stay until the medical examiner comes. I stay out of the family's way. I take their garbage out if they need that. I play with the kids if they need that. But I also try to let the detectives secure the scene by helping the family, you know, talk about different options during that time while they're getting that scene secure. And then the medical examiner comes, and I usually see if they need anything else. Sometimes I stay, sometimes I don't. Most of the time I don't. My detectives are like, come on. They don't want to leave me, so.
You see all of the raw details that we appreciate.
Thank you.
That's a
Thanks.
tough job, and we thank
The
you
kids are
for
the
you.
hardest.
Well,
The-
I'm sure you have
That
no
was a
idea
hard one,
what you
'cause
do, what you go through, so
He
thank
was a
you.
young guy, so. But thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
And then, so one more question. So do you also help, let's say it wasn't a death. Let's just relate it to what happened at the pool. Did you see anyone related to what happened at the pool, or is that something you would do?
I didn't. That is something that would be up to the detectives, whether they call me out there or not. If there are a lot of frantic people, they're always welcome to call me.
Okay.
I can be used really for whatever they need.
Okay.
Generally, if they feel like they've got it under control, then that's something that they'll just, you know, keep to themselves. My phone is on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So they're pretty respectful about my time as well. But I'm always welcome to go, or willing to go to the hospital, to another scene like that. That was a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. All right. Awesome. Well, Kim,
Okay.
you're awesome. Thank you so much.
thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Now move to item 8B, our presentation of our CAFRA award by our city manager.
So a few months back, the city received the GFOA Distinguished Budget Award, which is something where we turn our budget in every year, and it's scrutinized by other government finance officers, and they have a special award if you've meet a certain threshold. And they do the same thing with the CAFR. So GFOA is the Government Financers Officers Association. So a national organization which Denise is a member of that oversees the people that do city finances. So they sent us a press release just a couple weeks ago saying the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting has been awarded to Pleasant Grove City by the Government Finance Officers Association of the United States and Canada for its comprehensive annual financial report, or CAFR. So the budget shows the budget. The CAFR is the document that, you know, it shows where the money, how it's been used, and Denise can probably explain it better than I can, but it's 110 pages or so. I mean, just chock full of financial information regarding the city. The Certificate of Achievement is the highest form of recognition in the area of governmental accounting and financial reporting, and its attainment represents a significant accomplishment by a government and its management. An award of financial reporting achievement has been awarded to the individual or department designated by the government as primarily responsible for preparing the award-winning CAFR, which is Denise. That's the person. Hang on, hold on, one more paragraph.
Okay, I'm just excited.
Wait, is this a golf clap, or is this going to be
Oh,
a
no, this
standing
is-
This is
ovation?
gonna be a
A
full-on
standing
clap.
ovation?
I don't know, well, I'll let you decide.
Okay, okay, thank you, Scott.
The CAFR has been judged by an impartial panel to meet the high standards of the program, which includes demonstrating a constructive spirit of full disclosure, to clearly communicate its financial story and motivate potential users and user groups to read the CAFR. So thank you, Denise, for this. We've received this award every year you've been here. Yeah, every year I've been here. And I think we received it a few years when Dean was here as well, so. 10 years or so.
have to give her a bigger office so we can have all those on one wall.
Yeah.
She's gonna need a
Trophy
bigger wall.
room.
Okay, we'll now move on to our items number 9, our public hearing items. And we'll now move to item 9A, public hearing to consider for adoption an ordinance 2019-13, permanently closing and abandoning approximately 270 feet by 40 feet road right-of-way located between North County Boulevard and Pleasant Grove Boulevard along 700 South, providing for an effective date, and we'll turn time over to our Public Works Director, Marty.
Mayor, a couple months ago, we've been working with a couple of developers down near North County Boulevard and Pleasant Grove Boulevard intersection. And in this process, they are looking at developing the piece on, it's directly south of Holiday Oil on the same side of the road on Pleasant Grove Boulevard. In some of those discussions, let me show another map here that will help get a better feel for the area. Here is the intersection of North County and Pleasant Grove Boulevard. This piece here is owned by a man named Pete Rossi. I just remembered that. Yes, asked a question earlier.
The old McDonald's property.
Yeah.
Owned it at one time and then decided not to build it.
And this is a concept, it's nothing, it's something that you'll be seeing here actually in the next month or so. Here's a Holiday Oil site. With that, we currently, as you can see, have a old road. The 700 South right-of-way came all the way through here in the past and has since really not been used. And there's been discussions, at least on the engineering side of things over the years, what do we do with this little strip of road that goes nowhere? Do we need it as right-of-way? Do we want to keep it or get rid of it? As we work into the McDonald's site, we kind of said, well, we can go either way. Do you want it? They said, no, we'll keep it. We have a sewer line, a water line, and we own the property here at the end of the road. We've also allowed an access here with the void building onto that road. But the reality of it is it probably doesn't need to be public. It could be obtained through easements as far as having a sewer easement, a water line easement, and access easement there. As we talked with them about that, it makes an impact to their site because if we have to require a 56-foot right-of-way through there, all their buildings get set back based on the curb lines, and we have to have them construct that right-of-way and set back their buildings accordingly. So there's some impact to them as well. So they came to us and said, hey, would you consider vacating this right-of-way? As we looked at it, we couldn't see any reason why the city needs to maintain ownership of this as long as we have our easements needed for sewer, water, and access through the property, public access through the property. So essentially what you're dealing with tonight is a request to vacate that right-of-way. Essentially, it will be split down the middle. It's currently 60 feet wide, approximately. 30 feet would go to the south, 30 feet would go to the north. I believe it's 60 feet wide. I guess I better check that. But essentially, it'll be split down the middle of the right-of-way. Half would go to the north, half would go to the south property owner there. And then they would work that into their site plans. They would reserve the easements for culinary water, sewer, and access through that area so that we can continue to have that ability to access through there. They wouldn't be able to construct a building within that or block off the access as an access easement, so it would leave it open for us to be able to maintain utilities through that area as well. So we felt comfortable with the request. We've make a recommendation of approval of vacating this and deeding it to them as long as we reserve those easements and access right-of-way through there so that we can continue to operate through there.
Any other questions for Marty? Okay, thank you. If not, I would like to now open it up for our public hearing and have anyone who would like to come forward and address the council on this item. Please come forward now. Okay. We will now close our public hearing and bring it back to the council. And
No questions?
no questions? Then with that,
Mayor, I'll make a motion to adopt ordinance 2019-13, permanently closing and abandoning approximately 270 by 40 foot of road right-of-way located between North County Boulevard and Pleasant Grove Boulevard along 700 South, and providing for an effective date.
And I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Williams and a second by Councilmember Anderson. And this will be a roll call vote with, starting with Councilmember Anderson,
Yes.
Councilmember Jensen,
Yes.
Councilmember Lamone,
Yes.
Councilmember Walker,
Yes.
Councilmember Williams.
Yes.
Passes unanimously. Thank you. We'll now move on to our 9B, public hearing to consider for adoption a resolution 2019-027, request of D.W. Gents to amend and adopt a city local streets vicinity plan for undeveloped properties on property located at approximately 326 West, 1100 North in the R18 Single-Family Residential Zone, Northfield Neighborhood. Daniel.
Mayor, Council, it's a pleasure to be here today. The item that is in front of us today is for the amendment of a vicinity plan. The applicant, as the mayor read it, is D. Jans, properties at 326 West, and this is in R18 zone, right in the middle of an R18 zone. Let's take a look at this. Everything in yellow is R18, okay? So what the applicant is proposing is to amend, to change that, the vicinity road that was adopted some time ago. Usually, this item was easy, because usually when we have an amendment to a vicinity road, we have multiple owners involved. In this situation, we only have two, the property right here and this property. I'm gonna show you something really quickly. This is what it was adopted. As we can see, this property right here, it's hard to move them out. This property right here, it didn't subdivide it as with multiple lots. It stayed homogeneous into one consolidated big lot. So therefore, this road right here was not needed for this project to go as it stayed as one lot. Usually what the vicinity plan tries to achieve is two things, is to give everybody an opportunity to develop equally, and number two, and for planning this is very important, it gives connectivity. Okay, it gives connectivity. In this case, connectivity from north to south. Planning wasn't very concerned about the connectivity because we have right here 530, just a couple steps to the west and a couple steps to subdivide right now into, it's a two-lot subdivision. Okay, it's gonna look something more like this right here. All right, so this square right here, oh, this is square. It's better if I do it right here. I need to bring a little table here. This is square right here, okay? What we're looking at that is exactly what we will have inside this red line, okay? So what the applicant is proposing, instead of having the road go through it, which at this point we will have to push the road into just this developer right here, but what he's proposing is something like this, okay? So the street doesn't go through. Again, there's no concern from staff because we have 530 and 220 right there. There's still one cul-de-sac. That cul-de-sac is being preserved, and it allows this applicant, D-Gens, to eventually, right now it's only a two-lot subdivision, okay? But in the future, if he wishes to develop that into smaller lots, he has the chance. So he's the one to propose this type of future subdivision, okay? But again, what we're doing at this point is just amending the vicinity plan. Engineering had a chance to go over this. There are some, they had some concerns with the hydrology, but they have already been addressed.
With the what?
Hydrology, with the drainage.
Okay.